morning, everyone. Welcome to the Hudson County Community College Speaker Series, and a very special welcome to former NASA astronaut Dr. Cady Coleman. Dr. Coleman is a veteran of 2 space shuttle missions and has enjoyed an extensive and celebrated career at NASA and beyond. Dr. Coleman's passionate about education and is very excited to speak with our students today and with our community members. In fact, Dr. Coleman is a member of the Board of Trustees at Greenfield Community College in Massachusetts, so she understands and embraces the transformational impact of American community colleges. Dr. Coleman, we're honored to welcome you to Hudson County Community College. At HCCC, we're so proud of our STEM division, home to impressive and competitive programs in biology, chemistry, computer science, electronics engineering technology, engineering science, environmental science, mathematics, physics, and our newest STEM programs, advanced manufacturing, construction management, and cybersecurity. These programs are housed in our new state-of-the-art STEM building on our Journal Square campus, where students have access to top-of-the-line equipment, software, classrooms, and labs. Associate Dean of STEM, Dr. Burl Yearwood, and our stellar faculty are engaged with our students in so many ways, including very active STEM and computer science clubs led by Professor Clive Lee, strong cohorts in statewide STEM transfer and scholarship programs led by Professors Belino Josil and Fatma Tat, and a 5-star award-winning Phi Theta Kappa chapter led by Professor Ted Lai and others. We just learned that Hudson County Community College has been awarded a significant grant from the National Science Foundation that will support new and exciting projects in our construction management program. And we congratulate Dr. Azhar Mahmood, who wrote the grant and who will serve as the grant's project director. And we also thank Sean Kerwick and our grants office and others who supported this exciting proposal. Today, we've asked several of our highly engaged and successful student leaders from these programs to share program accomplishments and their experiences, and then we will hear from Dr. Coleman. So thank you again for joining us, Dr. Coleman. And now please join me in welcoming STEM Club President and Jack Kent Cooke Foundation Scholarship semifinalist, Pedro Morenchel. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, President Rover, for that introduction. I don't know if the PowerPoint is going to be shared. Oh, there it is. Hi, everybody. So I'll be introducing STEM Club and the experience I have, the opportunities we have now, and all in all, what STEM Club is to me. Next slide. So especially before COVID-19, we had a lot of different science showcases, which enabled my curiosity as a very young first semester student here. One especially was talking about electricity and then how to use a 3D printer, which I didn't know I was going to use a lot afterwards. And also in terms of different science topics, such as you can see here, it was talking about magnetism and magnetism levitation, and as well as their application to some technology today, like such railroad tracks, which is really exciting. Next slide. But the part that really kind of arguably was the first time I really got involved into Hudson was in terms of the active rocketry team within STEM Club. So as you can see here, there were various different model rockets that were made. I had the honor to be part of two of those. So mine is the one in the middle and the one in the bottom right there. So it was really exciting of being able to be in that process from beginning to end, all the way from designing and using scraps of paper to using different programs to see how high it would fly, all the way to field day where we go to various parts of New Jersey and actually watch the thing fly, and as well as other very enthusiastic rocketry people. And it was a really tight-knit community. We got pizza afterwards, and it was the first time I'm like, oh, this is my thing. This is my community. And I was hooked, and I kept going on to make it. And it was something that we hope to bring back with the loosening of COVID-19 restrictions. But it's very much awe-inspiring, that opportunity that was for me. Next slide. Another event that we still hold strong in is bringing guest speakers. So here, while this photo is pre-COVID, the same speaker went on to speak during last summer, so it was during COVID. He was also from NASA, and it was specifically talking about the lunar missions and the lunar exploration that's being planned and research on the moon. And it was really exciting in terms of how he got everyone engaged. You can see how it was really full that day, and there were various different questions, and it was something that it meant a lot to bring those types of speakers in there. That's why we invited him again in terms of last summer, because he was so engaging. But we also had other various speakers. Next slide. Personally, for me, when I became vice president of STEM Club and now president of STEM Club, something that was important to me especially was bringing that idea of research and the understanding of STEM careers onto our students. So from here, we invited 3 various speakers from different fields, or hoping to get various fields on this, in terms of giving students a perspective of what does it mean to have that STEM career, especially in research, like what kind of opportunities are there. And so we had one from, so far, 3 different institutions, most recently. So one is from our nearby state school of Rutgers. We had a biophysicist talk about his research on COVID-19. It was very engaging in terms of the questions people had, because it's a very contemporary subject. We also had Dr. David Lieberman of Queensborough Community College talk not only about the program he does in terms of physics and engineering as well, but in terms of how specifically tailored it is towards getting community college students to produce an RU, a very competitive, a very engaging and fruitful program to dip their feet wet in terms of getting research opportunities. And that also saw wonderful engagement. And something we also pride ourselves in is getting feedback from our students, from our members, and taking them to heart with our events. One example was in terms of a student mentioned to me how she wanted to know about study abroad opportunities, and if there was still that connection with those being underrepresented in science. And we happily got speaker Dr. Fernando Pinero of the Universidad de Puerto Rico Ponce of mathematics, a mathematics professor, on his specific RU program in connection to East Tennessee University, talking about various aspects of pure mathematics and applied mathematics research. One was specifically, I believe, about DNA and using an aspect of pure mathematics to go on to better understand the different structures of DNA, which was really exciting. So we always are hoping to get these new speakers and new opportunities to allow students to see these different types of career choices. I'm really excited to our next guest speaker for next month, but I'm not going to say that. You're going to have to come and join. Next slide. So carrying off that research message, we also have a very tight-knit research community. So various amounts of our students went on to have this idea, or were supported by different faculty here, that went on to actually not only have the benefits of, producing something intellectually stimulating and going on to be curious in that way and study something that they themselves want to learn about, but also they had the chance of going to different conferences and had the experience of making a poster and presenting that to experts. So such as an expert within the bottom right corner, he himself is a director. You can see how amazed he is in terms of the subject Carolina, that fellow student, is giving. And it's a really engaging experience that we really try to encourage our students to do. It can be a little bit, I can understand going right in, that it could be nervous, like you're going to present something that's yours and unique, but we really try our best to help you. I know for me as well, it was very smooth with our advisor, Professor Clive Lee, and being able to go from my own project about traffic congestion. And so, we're really encouraging in terms of that, and we hope to support in any ambitions for research that you can have, because it's an experience that everyone here is more than capable of having, and it's very important in terms of career choices and being able to show that you can produce independent research in that work, and having showcasing critical thinking skills. And next slide. Some of our students, in terms of our members, also had the chance of not only being part of this wonderful experience, but have garnered awards. So we'll play the short video clips right here.
The first poster award goes to Joanne Miera. Poster 133. She's got to come up. Oh yes, if I call your name, come up. All right, our next winner is Diana Gonzalez Agueta, also from Hudson County, poster 132. I want to point out, Diana presented 2 posters today.
Good job, Diana.
So proud. Next slide. And that could absolutely be you, especially in terms of joining, you know, they started.
All right, our next winner is Diana.
Everything, and it's more than possible to be in a position like that, especially with our supportive student body here at STEM Club. Another thing we're transitioning into our theme currently as this spring and hopefully within the summer is community service. We have 3 main projects that we're doing to impact our local community. One of which that is essentially just completed is our anti-microbial gadget distribution. It's a device that you can safely open and close doors, open and close containers that I'm proud to say has been designed, made, and distributed all mainly by students. You can see here, you know, just the aspect of how many people were involved within various parts of their projects. Some of here are alumni, some are not, but either ways, it was something that was really engaging, and being able to distribute that has been very, very satisfying. Next slide. Another one as well. So previously, within the last year, we have a garden. It was produced by a garden where they had different machines and it combined so many things. And it basically, you can grow as well mushrooms that we hope to bring within the culinary department here. And being food pantry, to being able to bring to the food pantry those different resources. And that's great. And it's also plans to be expanded through researching hydroponics and researching the aspects of that. So it's a combination of not only community service and being able to support that previous device for the food pantry, but you're also able to get that research opportunity, as you can see, especially to the left photo. So if anybody is interested, even a smidge of it at all, I would highly recommend, you know, contacting either myself or within Professor Dr. Clive Lee. In terms of being able to have that, it's really easy to be able to jump onto something like that. And it's, again, you're part of this thing that not only is for yourself, but for those around you within the school. And finally, something that I have to show you personally is this. So this eerie looking black box is something that I'm heading, which in terms of we're partnering with Jersey City Public Schools, and we're making STEM educational videos for various different ages, mainly for kids. So right here within that box is mainly talking about circuitry, and we're getting different students on board to make these engaging videos, and again, to contribute to our local community. So STEM Club, all in all, has been one of the most welcoming communities for me. I don't think I would nearly be as engaging or in the position that I am if I did not have it. And I hope I gave some of you interest. If anybody's interested at all, please, again, contact me or Professor Clive Lee, and thank you so much for your time.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Daphne Paul. I'm a student at Hudson County Community College. My major is biology. This is my last semester at Hudson at HCCC. Today, I have the opportunity to talk about a STEM scholarship program. I heard about this program from Professor Fatmata. She's the coordinator of this program. I decided to apply during the fall semester. I sent all the requested documents to her, and follow-up were done. STEM program is a scholarship program in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This scholarship is available for students who have those requirements, must be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, full-time at Hudson County Community College, have a GPA of 3.5 or higher, demonstrate financial need, and STEM major. Next slide. This program have those activities such as research opportunities, seminars, academic support services activities, career counseling, job placement activities, community building, field trips, internship, meeting, conferences, time usage survey, a very short survey asking how much time you spend on various topics, focus group, and panel discussion. If this program is really interesting, if you want to participate in that program, I encourage all students to participate. Professor Fatmata, if you are really interested, contact Professor Fatmata. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Hector Roman. I am currently a sophomore here at Hudson County Community College and a member of the B2B program. I first heard of B2B during last semester. And back then, even though I was a STEM major, I did not have a lot of exposure to the STEM field aside from just my regular classes. It wasn't until I became engaged in the program that I was able to realize that how many internships and opportunities are out there for undergraduate students. If you seek, let's say, for example, experience before getting to graduate, I suggest internships are the best way to get it. Internships have a great impact, whether you are applying for a job or for an opportunity, as it makes you stand out from the rest. Being in this program has encouraged me to get out of my comfort zone and look for those experiences to make a difference in my career path. Currently, I am applying for an internship in MIT for research in material science, and I'm applying for an internship in the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey as an electrical engineering intern. These are just two of the many internships and research opportunities that the B2B program connects to you. As a member of the B2B program, you will be informed about speaker series that are held each month, which are presentations held by an invited professor or professional in the STEM field, such as the one we have today with Dr. Coleman. Additionally, every member of the B2B program is encouraged to form study groups. If you have, let's say, at the same major or a course you are both taking at this current semester, you are encouraged to form these groups to strengthen your knowledge and the content. Finally, if you plan to transfer to a 4-year institution, you get access to the B2B cross-campus mentoring program, which gives you the possibility to be mentored by a student that is already in the university you're trying to go. I am currently a mentee, and I could say that it's really making the process of transferring to a 4-year institution smoother, and the transition, as I learn how different it is, the change from a 2-year institution to a 4-year institution. This program has been one of my best experiences during my college life because of the support and opportunities brought to minorities in the STEM. Thank you, everyone, and please contact Dr. Joseph. Her email is in the slide. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Abu Traore. I'm an international student at HCC and peer leader at the same time, and I'm the vice president of public relations. Um, yeah, I'm a Phi Theta Kappa member, and our chapter names is Beta Alpha Phi. Next, please. There are too many benefits and reason why you should join Phi Theta Kappa. Like, for example, this one is Hunger Free Bayon that we usually do every weekends. We used to do it before at the Bayon Park, Section 3. So we used to go there and help our community, giving fruits, making line and helping our communities. Either we just cleaning the park, giving fruits, vegetables and all of that. Yeah, next. Yeah, this is the Friends and Liberty State Park. So every Saturday from 9 to 12, we used to go to the park, cleaning the park, planting, ranking, watering, and all of that. So Phi Theta Kappa is one of the benefits, not just about scholarship, but just getting involved and giving back to your community. Next. On top of the scholarship and the grants, Phi Theta Kappa offer a lot of jobs and internships through either Coca-Cola scholarship, the Jack and Coke, and the Geico pathway to completion to your bachelor degree if you're transferring to a four-year college. Next. Leadership and mentorship too is one of the things that you will get as a Phi Theta Kappa member. So we have different age, as you guys can see. The first one is the transfer age. So the transfer age will give you a lot of knowledge, advice, tips, if you're planning to transfer from a community college to a four-year college. And the most famous one is the competitive edge. That one too is more about videos, things that are going to help you to become a college on survivors, learn a lot about like what you're doing right now, what's your interest, what you want to do in the future. So for the employment edge, not just all students are just going to school. Some of us, have a jobs and stuff like that. So the employment edge will give you a better knowledge about, what you should, do after transferring or even while you're working. What's the pros and cons of the workforce? And then the last one is going to be the research edge. Next. And if you guys want more information about Alpha Beta 5, you can either follow us on Facebook, Instagrams, or you can just email directly our advisor, Professor Lay. He's really available. So he's the type of professor that you can email at 1 in the morning and he will definitely answer you. And yeah, just get involved. And we're looking for new members, either president, treasurer, vice president. So make sure you guys get involved. And the requirement is to just become a full-time student, have a 3.5 GPA and up. Then once you hit that GPA, you're either gonna get an email from our advisor to welcome you to our honor society. So make sure you get involved. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. And let me say a quick thank you to Dr. Reber and the presenters for such an amazing opening today. My name is Jasmine Yin, and I am so proud of our STEM division. As you can see, we hold a lot of opportunities for being in STEM, from research projects to volunteer work. I am also so excited to be here and so eager for the conversations we're about to have today. Personally speaking, as a female entering a male-dominated field of computer science and STEM, our special guest is pivotal to the progression of not just humanity, but especially women. Our featured guest speaker is a former NASA astronaut and Air Force colonel. She is the veteran of 2 space shuttle and international space shuttle missions and a 6-month expedition aboard the International Space Station, acting as lead robotics and lead science officer, as she performed the second ever robotic capture of a supply ship from the station. Super important and super impressive. Her favorite thing about living in space, the flying. Fun fact, not only does our speaker reach for the stars, but she also teaches them. She actually coached Sandra Bullock in preparation for her astronaut role in the movie Gravity. She just came in time for the end of Women's History Month, and she isn't just a part of history, she continues to make history by consulting for many space projects. Everyone, I'd like to welcome our very special guest speaker, Dr. Cady Coleman.
Well, hi there. So Jasmine, thank you for that very kind introduction. And also, I've just really enjoyed the presentations that we've been hearing this morning. They're exactly the kind of stuff that, you know, I just wish everybody knew, because there is resources out there, and it's not until somebody like really looks you in the eye and tells you about them somehow that you really feel like they might be for you. But all the subjects that were discussed, I think, are just so important. And in fact, I have a son who's 20 years old and looking at internships. He's a sophomore studying journalism, and he's looking for internships. And you know, it's hard to imagine when you're thinking about that place and you send in an application and what would I do there? And the things that Hector was describing, I think will help make internships real to you. And that, I mean, internship is this formal word, but just getting some experience, even just talking to somebody who does something you're thinking about, helps you understand more about what you might be doing. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start with some slides. And then so I'm going to do that for about 30 minutes, maybe just a little bit less, and then take questions. And you can ask anything that you want, or Veronica is in charge of all questions, so I'm going to leave that with her. But I want to I guess my goal is to show you a little bit about what's going on in the space program, so that it's, you know, real to you. I think there's a lot of news and it's hard to keep it all straight. And then show you some of the things that I do, and especially really just, I'm trying to emphasize that when you see somebody wearing a jacket like this, there's, I think, an impression that, you know, I basically, you know, woke up and waited for NASA to say, Katie, it's time to apply to be an astronaut. We think you could be one. And that every time I went to decide, what am I going to major in, or should I study this, or what school should I go to, that I always knew like which way to go at that fork in the road. And I certainly am not a person like that. You know, I'm a person that, you know, looks at these decisions. I like advice. I like to ask people. I kind of figure things out by talking about them with people. But certainly, I mean, I think I could speak for almost every one of my crewmates, so to speak, the people that are astronauts, and tell you that every one of them is a real person just like you, that got this great opportunity partly by being prepared for opportunity. So let me just run through some slides, which I hope will make it a little bit more real to you. This looks like a space shuttle launching. It's a very special picture to me because I am like right inside, right under those little tiny windows. This was my very first flight in 1995 on the space shuttle, and we had a giant laboratory in the back of the space shuttle where we were practicing literally, when we have a space station and we're going up there to do experiments, how are we going to do those? Oops, let me see. I always make this mistake where I forget to click in the right place. And so there's that space shuttle on its way to space. I mean, it's amazing. We're going like 100 miles an hour before we even clear the launch pad. And so by this time, we're going faster than the speed of sound. And when we're in orbit around the Earth, only about 250 miles up, you know, above the Earth. So it's not like so far, but we're going 17,500 miles an hour. We go around the Earth it takes about an hour and a half to go around the Earth. So it's pretty amazing. We go around the Earth 16 times a day. It's really quite a view. And so I had 2 space shuttle missions. And then I got to live on the International Space Station for almost 6 months. And I'm going to tell you about those things, but I actually want to do something that I usually do at the end of my talk, but I think it's a better beginning for us to talk about, which is I want to talk about what's going on now on the space station and at NASA, so that you kind of understand maybe, then I'm going to tell you about what it was like for me. And I think by knowing what's going on now, maybe it'll help you understand maybe what you want to listen to when I'm talking about what life was like for me. So this is the crew, part of the crew that is up on the space station right now. This is the part that just launched. The way our space station works, about 6 people, 7 people can live there, something that kind of range. And usually we go up in sort of groups or 3 or 4. So when the people in this picture, which is Shannon Walker, Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, and Soichi Noguchi from Japan, when they launched on the SpaceX capsule just about, let's see, back in early November, just before Thanksgiving, when they launched up to the space station, there were already 3 people there. So they're part of a 7-person crew. And I'm actually pointing out partly because out of all these people, he's probably my best friend on the crew. And so I follow what he's doing, and I love to see him up there because I know how hard he worked to get there. This is Victor Glover. There's Victor with some of his girls, his family, and there he is in his flight suit. And there's been a lot of Black astronauts who have been to the space station, been on space shuttle crews, been an integral part of actually constructing the amazing, astonishing space station. But Victor is the very first Black astronaut to live on the space station as an expedition or long duration crew member. And so that, I think that's pretty cool. And he's a neat guy. He's really smart. I mean, you could read his bio. His name is Victor Glover, but he's a test pilot. He does science, he does engineering, and he's an astronaut pilot person, and he's a test pilot. And on this mission, because it's the first mission of this capsule where we're like, okay, now we have a brand new capsule that we bought from SpaceX. We did a test flight with 2 people on it. Now we're going to use it for real. It's still a test mission, and Victor is a test pilot, and he was the lead pilot on the vehicle. So. And this is just showing them walking out to launch. This is a very special picture for me. You see the 4 of them walking out. Look at the doorway in back with the NASA symbols on there. That is the same doorway that the Mercury, the Gemini, the Apollo astronauts, when they went to the moon, that's the same doorway that they walked out of. And when I launched on the space shuttle, it's the same doorway that I walked out of. So there's a lot of history that has walked right under that doorway. And it's really cool to see this crew. And I want you to take a really close look at this picture plus the next picture. I told you that they're a 7-person crew. And so you see Shannon, Victor, Mike, and Soichi. I begin to wonder if they always sort of stand or float in the same order now that I notice. But then up above them is the rest of their crew, but they're kind of hard to see because they're upside down and we're not used to looking that way. And I want you to sort of turn your heads a little bit and you can kind of see who they are, but it's easier if I just turn the picture upside down for you, right? And now you see Kate and Sergey, 2 Russian guys with the same name. And so that's our international crew. But we'll come back to that, looking at things a little bit differently. I mean, if you look at a picture the same way, if you look at a person the same way, a situation the same way, you're probably going to see the same thing. And so I think, learning to look at things differently is something that comes almost naturally to astronauts because we have to. So a little bit about going back to the moon, which is what is next for NASA. I mean, we're using that space station as a place to learn about what what we need to know to live on the moon and then to go further and live on Mars. And so this is the brand new, actually about 2 years old now, group of astronauts that were picked for the US. And they are just a really, really neat group. They're taking a selfie in front of those airplanes that most of them don't know how to fly and are taught how to fly, which I will tell you as a chemist in the Air Force, learning how to fly as a co-pilot in those cool airplanes was one of the most fun things. But this picture is one, I hope that you'll go ahead and minimize, maybe minimize me down to just like a little bitty square so you can see all the faces there. But these out of all the astronauts, these are the folks that were selected to be the Artemis astronauts. Artemis is the sister of Apollo. So we had the Apollo program going to the moon. The Artemis program is to bring the first woman and the next guy to the moon. Now, personally, I'm not like so sure, does it have to be a guy? I mean, why couldn't 2 women go, right? I mean, it is a question. But this is the group that the first people and the next people will be chosen from. And they're just really, really neat. And you can see Victor's up there in the top right. And let's see, I'm trying to find other folks, but just a lot of neat folks. Some are older astronauts like me, and many of them are the younger astronauts, and everybody is all about that exploration mission. Whoops, why did that do that? Let's see, here we go. And now just a little bit about Mars. Because Mars has been in the news really quite a bit lately. And I'm a human spaceflight astronaut. I don't know everything about Mars. I don't know everything about going to Mars, all about the rovers, but I did need to learn some for recently helping the TV folks talk about the Perseverance Rover, which it landed on Mars just about 1 month ago. And so this is a movie where there was a camera as the rover was landing on Mars. It deployed its parachute at 2 times the speed of sound. Hello, amazing. And then so it deployed its parachute, and then when it was done with the part of the lander that protected its belly, it let that go. So we get to see that going, and now the cameras can take a look. And I'm going to sort of speed this up just a little bit. You can see this is a camera that is on the belly of the rover, okay, and it is getting closer and closer to Mars. And it's got a really special navigation system, a GPS like we use in our cars, on our phones, Google Maps, where this rover is looking down. It's got a really smart navigation brain, smarter than any other rover. And it's going, oh, look at those mountains and those craters. I probably do not want to land on those. No, no, no. And oh, there's a crater. Is it getting closer? Oh, I'd better move away because there's the sand dunes. I mean, it's literally having that dialogue using code, right? Using computer code. And the team that made all this happen, this whole landing, I mean, it took like, I don't know, a couple of years to get to Mars, but then to actually land on Mars took about 7 minutes from when they say ready, set, land from the ground, from the control room. And so all of this had to be pre-programmed because it takes 10 minutes at least for a signal to get back to Earth. So here's real people who programmed this rover and actually designed all that equipment to help it land safely. And there they are on the ground, you know, trying to figure out, trying to make sure that it happened right, but they had to trust that their work was good. And this is the very last step where the sky crane, which is literally a crane that takes up off the top and starts and makes sure that the lander, that the rover lands gently. And so it gently sets the rover down, and then the sky crane will just run away. You'll see it in just a second. It's zooming off. I mean, it looks like science fiction. And this is the control room. I mean, it gives me chills just to see it because these are real people just like you. Probably not interns, but interns probably helped with this. I am not kidding. And just a couple pictures. If you look here on the right, I mean, there's a tiny little square here, right? This picture of Mars was taken by an orbiter that was like basically a satellite going around Mars that we put there a long time ago to be able to send us communication back. And so that was taking pictures of the very place as Perseverance, the rover, was landing. And if we blow up that picture, you can actually see the parachute and the rover. I mean, I just think that is so cool. And here's it blown up. So you can see that little dot, and there's the parachute, and there's the rover, really hot. And so it shows up like that. And then this is the rover looking up at its, or the sky crane looking down at the rover. See the wheels of the rover? And then this is a drawing of the rover, but this is what's on Mars, and it's called Perseverance. The team calls her, and they do call her Percy. And Percy is a really cool rover that if any of you do social media, I'm betting that some of you do. I don't know if Percy Snapchats, we'll have to see, but I know that Percy does Instagram, she does Twitter, she does Facebook, and every day, literally, she tells you what's going on Mars. And you can even, and this is the first thing she did, she took a selfie of Mars. So she's actually taken a picture of her shadow and Mars right there. So, and this is the control room team, okay? But this is the team I wanted to show you. This is probably a fraction of the number of people that it took to make that Mars mission happen. Okay, and there they are at the Jet Propulsion Lab, which is a part of NASA. And then I wanted to show you this, which shows them a little closer up. You know, during COVID times, they did this final assembly and launch and everything during COVID. And so, and then had to wait for the rover to arrive on Mars. And actually, I think it only took about 6 months to get to Mars. I think I said that wrong. But I love this picture because, I mean, I don't know, I see families, I see kids, I see people whose kids might not be in the picture, but you know that somebody else is helping take care of them. I mean, everybody's kind of making this work to make sure that the job gets done. And do yourselves a favor and go and Google, you know, the people that made Perseverance work. I mean, if you look up Perseverance and go to some of the YouTube channels, their team gives some of the best explanations, and I certainly use them to learn my thing, you know, what I needed to be able to say for like the networks and things like that. But they give the best explanations because they come from their heart. Okay, so I'll calm down. And I'm going to show you a little bit more about my experience. So we just kind of looked at the future of who's up on this space station right now. And now I'm going to tell you about my experience there. I went about 10 years ago. I was 50 years old. I turned 50 the day before I went to go live on the space station. Is that a great birthday present or what? And this is the day after my 50th birthday. I am inside that rocket. You'll see it in a little movie. I have about a 1.5-minute movie. And I'm not in the very tippy top like there. That's just the pointy kind of place that makes it go straight. But inside here, kind of inside like a tin can, that is where our capsule is. And this is our crew. This is our team. There's myself on the left. Easy to pick out, right? Only woman. It's not always that way, but often and too often it is. In the middle is our commander, Dmitry Kondratiev from Russia. And on the right is Paolo Nespoli from Italy. And I like to tell people that this is a picture of all of us really excited about going to space. And if we were in a room together, I think you would either be kind of laughing or a little bit uncomfortable. Like, does she really think it looks like that? Like, what about not everybody looks excited, do they? And it was a really good lesson for me because, you know, for example, my Russian colleague, it's not even a typical Russian thing, but he personally has a pretty kind of straight face, like all the time. And so this is actually a picture of Dmitry excited about going to space, but I had to learn that. And I had to learn that when I said, hey, Dmitry, what if we do this? Here's my idea. And then the face looked back at me. I had to learn that that was not the message that Dmitry was trying to send. So as an international crew, we learn a lot about each other. And you can see even in a 6-person picture, because when we got there, there were 3 people up there, and now we're a 6-person crew. You know, every one of us are different. And we can come from any of those pictures, those countries that are there on the bottom. I lived for almost 6 months up there. And this is a picture or a drawing of the space station. You can see why you don't have to feel bad for me. Like, oh, it was a tiny, terrible place that she lived. It was a wonderful, big, magnificent place. We don't live sort of goalpost to goalpost, but we live along the 50-yard line in those modules. A module is like a train car. Without the seats in it. I mean, so it's about that big, or a big, big school bus without the seats. And there's 10 of them all put together, some up, some down, but mostly in kind of a line. And so this is about a 1.5-minute movie. This is the space shuttle looking at us as we approached. And then here we are, we're launching from Russia. So you see us in our Russian launch suits. It's an international space station, and we launched from Russia for a very long time with the Russians, which I really loved. And we all had to learn Russian, and they learn English. And there I am in the little capsule. Here's the capsule coming in for a docking. It only takes about 8.5 minutes to get to space, but about, I don't know, a couple hours to parallel park. And then there I am up in space. There's my kid's little tiger on our robot. I'm doing a lot of work. I mean, I'm doing a lot of experiments. I'm a scientist, a chemist, but I learned a lot to be on the mission. I did some music up there. I brought my flutes and a couple of other people's flutes in order to sort of share the magic of being in space. And then this is looking out the window. It is beautiful. And you can also see that we are close, but we're not too far. I mean, every day doesn't look like this with Aurora Borealis, which I saw this maybe 10 times, but you can see the stars out there. It's an amazing view. This film right here is a little bit sped up to show you more of the world. The really bright lights are cities. And then there's a lot of clouds, little flashes are lightning. There's our atmosphere. And my ancestors are from Ireland, so it's kind of nice to show home at the end of your movie. And now I just want to tell you a little bit about, and I'm looking at my watch here because I want to make sure we have time for questions. Just a lightning thing, because I heard a lot of science and STEM in the talks that you were having before. And I love all the speakers that you're having, because I think they can make STEM real for people. Like, what is this and why would I care and would I be good at it? And realize that, I mean, STEM, science, engineering, science, technology, engineering, math. I put an A in there for art to be STEAM as well, because we need the visionary people that can really tell the stories. But this is a picture of Scott with some of the fresh fruit that someone sent him for his mission. He was up there for a year. And I just want you to see that everything floats around if it's not kind of Velcroed or tied down. And that is what is a pain in the butt, but it's also what allows us to do really cool experiments. So this is a drop of water, and this isn't an experiment, but just something we were playing with, but it shows you that, boy, liquids behave really differently up there. And because we take away gravity, we get to see those tiny, tiny little forces. They're the biggest game in town. So we can really study them better, and it helps us understand everything that has to do with flow through a pipe, that has to do with a river and how it flows and how erosion happens. The pipes in our bodies, our arteries and veins. I mean, understanding that flow, and not just the big part of it, but the part at the walls where it happens just a little bit different. So by going to a place where everything works differently, this is some orange liquid in a container down on the ground, it would just be flat. And you can look at this, okay, at home. Right where you are right now. If you have even a bottle of water, glass of water, if you look at the edge of the glass, you're going to see that water kind of creeping up the edge, but gravity keeps it down in the glass. And there's really a battle going on. Those water molecules, they want to be together, but they want to climb up. And so that's the battle that's going on. We take away gravity, we get to see how they really want to behave. Same idea for combustion. On the left is a regular candle flame. On the right is on the right is a space candle flame. And space candle flames are round. And it's because without that gravity of the lighter gases rising, we get to study combustion and how things burn and how to burn things more efficiently in a different way. We grow plants up there because we want to be able to eat on the way to Mars, and we want to be able to eat when we get to Mars and learn how to grow things. Now, here's the thing that I think is the most important out of all the things I just showed you. And I mean, here's the plant running around, is that these are experiments to help us learn how to go explore further, live on the moon, go to Mars. Well, how important is that compared to what's here on Earth? Well, it is important. And at the same time, all of these lessons, I swear to you, they come right back down to Earth. I mean, learning to grow plants in a place where it's hard to do that, I mean, that's really what we need to do. And so down here on the Earth, learning how to control pollution and combustion, learning how to understand how to control liquids, all those lessons count for Earth and our questions of health as well. Okay, let's see, a few slides of space food, and I think, and just to show you how fun it is up there. And Veronica, do you think we should go to some questions? And if some of the questions hit on things that I have in my slides, then I would go back to some of my slides. Would that be the best idea?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I was going to ask it, do you all, when the gummy bears are in the air, do you try to like catch them in the air? That was my first thought when I saw the gummies start to go.
And there's my friend Karen. That shows you like a drink bag. That's what our drinks are in there. It's kind of like having powdered whatever milk or juice or whatever, or just water in the empty bags. And then they've got kind of a weird straw because it has a little clip on it to keep the water coming out. And I think it looks like she has a Pop-Tart there. I mean, so I guess we can have bad food in space too, right?
I mean, why not? Live a little, right?
It's true. And here's like eating tacos together. You know how everything always falls out of your taco? Well, in space, it's a little bit different. Okay, so let's see. Tell you what, can I do just a little bit more?
Of course, go for it.
Questions. I just want to show you real quickly, there's the things that we do that you think about, like spacewalking. This is my spacesuit. And I am actually, I know we're all unexpected in different circumstances. As a smaller person, I mean, you might not be able to tell here, but I'm 5'4". I'm not like tiny, but I'm smaller. I think I grew up with a different idea of eye level. I feel actually quite tall enough, but people in the space program kind of looked at me like, do you fit in our spacesuits? We are not bringing those small spacesuits anymore. We don't have enough, money for them. We've only got medium and large and extra large. So you probably don't fit, do you? I'm like, I certainly do fit, very cheerfully. And I think partly because I myself and others have cheerfully showed up and showed them that all of us belong in spacesuits. Last year, we had the first women together doing a spacewalk. And this is Jasmine Watkins, who's one of the newer astronauts training. And we also do a lot of robotics. And I was one of the people, and this is a supply ship that you hear about like happening almost every 2 weeks or so. There's a supply ship going up to that space station. But when I was doing it, it was brand new. It was kind of scary. And my crewmate Paolo and I, we were in charge of capturing the second one of supply ships when we were up there. And now supply ships come all the time, but I want to show you a very special supply ship. It launched just about 3 weeks ago or so. And because one company that sends supply ships names them after people that were pivotal in the space program, who actually changed the course of the space program. And I think that there's a lot of history that is not, if it's written, it's not celebrated. And it's time to be doing that. And Katherine Johnson, we actually share a name. Her maiden name is Coleman. Katherine Coleman Johnson is a very, very well-renowned astrophysicist, space scientist, and mathematician. And this very woman, and many others who are, I think about 400 women, I think at least half of those were women of color, were doing the calculations to get us from the Earth out into space and back home again, from the Earth to the moon and back, to the shuttle and back, with the shuttle and up to the space station. So she did all those calculations. She passed just this last year, but this supply ship is on the space station right now as we speak. It is the SS Katherine Johnson. It's pretty wonderful. And I'll end with this graphic right here, because, really our way to space was paved by Katherine Johnson. And it is only right that her story be celebrated in so many different ways now. And I myself celebrate it often. So with that, Veronica, I will take some questions. I'll stop sharing.
Wonderful, thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm Veronica Gersimo, Assistant Dean of Student Life and Leadership at Hudson. So we did have some questions that were submitted in prior to the event. I'm going to encourage a couple of our students to come up on the screen. So I see Jillian, we have your question first. Jillian, if you're able to unmute or come on the screen as well, and you can ask your question. And then afterwards, we'll make our way to our Q&A in the event itself.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Dr. Coleman. Your presentation is really great. I really appreciate you sharing your stories. I'm actually going to be a physical therapy student starting in May, and I can't help but ask, since you're in zero gravity in space and you were there for almost 6 months, what kind of physical rehab do you have to do prior to or coming back from your missions?
That is an excellent question. And I am a huge believer in physical therapy, and it's a gift, I think, to be a physical therapist and help people. And I myself have gotten a lot of help and actually continue to do so. We've learned a lot about losing bone and muscle up there on the space station. And actually, I was a subject. We all do a lot of different experiments, and so I was a subject for I tested out a certain kind of drug that's used for osteoporosis, and without the drug, what we're finding though is that exercise with the right range of motion is helping people maintain the amount of bone and muscle that they have. Now we used to come back like losing like 10-15% of our bone mass. I mean, that's a huge number. And so now we are coming back with the same amount of bone that we left with, but if your bone is like a pipe that we lose sort of like the meaty middle of it, and then it's plated back on the outside. So we still have the same amount of bone, but it's kind of structured differently. It's kind of like maybe a skyscraper without all the floors and, in between. And so we'll see what happens. I'm an experiment for NASA, my whole life. Every year I go back for a physical. And in terms of rehab, we do have an extensive rehab. I mean, we do actually exercise at least an hour almost every day up on that space station. And unlike down here where you just maybe feel guilty when you don't exercise, up there, it actually just feels so terrible if you don't exercise. Your body just doesn't feel right. And so we do exercise like that. I came back in the best shape of my life, but then we have to actually do a lot of kind of connecting of our head and our body. I mean, drills where we're like walking forward, looking sideways, throwing a ball back and forth is something that is hard to do. But a lot of kind of making sure that the muscles, each part of the muscle is strong, not just the main part, because we haven't been doing a lot of twisting and torquing. If that makes sense. So thanks for the nice question.
Thank you so much, Jillian. All right, next we have Minnie. Minnie, I'm going to bring you on, and if you're able to unmute and ask your question. Minnie, if we're not there, I can ask on behalf. So something that you noticed that was different about your body, you went into a little bit, but or different about you? What was different about you after returning from being in space?
I think you can never be the same. There's things you can't unsee. And I don't know if there's ever a time, I mean, just when you go and you have an experience, you get to go somewhere where, sometimes it's big nature, being near a big mountain or just, a huge waterfall and sometimes it's going somewhere like Hector talked about. He's going to go and be an intern at MIT in material science, and he's going to spend maybe the summer there. And I myself went to MIT undergrad, and I actually studied in the chemistry department, but I studied material science. And you're going to go someplace, you're going to have an experience that when you come back, not everybody's been there with you. And it's kind of hard to tell people like where you've been and how you felt. And that's how I feel about space, but especially in the way of looking down at the Earth and realizing, actually, I'll just share really quickly, Veronica, looking down and getting, I mean, you look at this picture, I mean, this happens to be a cloudy day, a lot of places on the Earth, but you realize that there's no borders between the countries. There's no capital letters. It seems almost like why would it matter to have a flag from a certain country on your sleeve up there on the space station? I mean, it's just a really big view. And even when you look here and you see something geographical, like this is Italy, indeed, shaped like a boot. I mean, it's clear that those are a lot of different countries there. And yet, to me, what's really clear is that they are all so connected. Like if people only knew that they could just reach out and find each other, I feel like we could solve so many problems. And part of the reasons that we don't solve a lot of problems is because I think we don't actually know that we just don't have teams that have enough different kinds of people on them. Next question.
You spoke it all. That's all of it. So next question, we got Bethesda. Bethesda will bring you on, able to unmute or open up your video. And we have Katie for another half hour. So if you have questions, I see questions going into our Q&A. Definitely continue with that. Bethesda, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I'm here. Okay, so my question was, well, first I want to say that I really admire you as a person and your achievements. I wanted to ask, when you were younger, did you always know that you wanted to become an astronaut? And what motivated you towards this dream? Thank you.
I'm gonna plain old no, Bethesda. I did not, because I was born in 1960, and we went to the moon in 1969. So I was about 8 years old when sorry, when we went to the moon. So I didn't see a lot of women astronauts. I would see the picture of the Mercury 7, the first 7 astronauts, and that cool airplane. And I thought the airplane was kind of cool, but I sort of almost just didn't see the guys because they don't really resonate for me, right? And it wasn't until literally I went to college and I met Dr. Sally Ride. She came, the Women's Alumni Association brought her as a speaker. And I remember where I was sitting in the classroom, I just remember thinking, wow, I mean, she seems like just so sort of normal. And yet it's clear that being educated counts, and she loves her job, you know, as a scientist, but she also gets to do this cool adventure stuff. Maybe that could be me. And it really took that for me. And I think that we have more and more ways to see ourselves in things around, you know, in the media and things like that, but still way too few. And, you know, I know that you know, at your institution, you are predominantly people of color and minority. And, you know, in my world, I'm a minority as well. And I can't understand everything about your world. And at the same time, just from my world, when somebody says, Katie, can we take your picture? You know, and I can't do everything for everybody. And at the same time, I really try to say yes. I mean, I may feel like, oh, I'm like all sloppy and I'm not wearing anything nice, or I just don't feel like it. But actually, just by being in that picture for somebody, you don't know where that picture is going to go. You don't know who is going to see it, and see it next to somebody that they can relate to and say, you know, maybe that could be me. And I think that all of us, and I am trying to look out and see all of you, even though I can't see you, you know, have that ability to be somebody who catalyzes other people. And that's why when people were talking about the scholarships and they were talking about like the STEM club, all these are ways to have that world be more real to you. And I just want to tell, I know we were talking long here, Veronica, but I did go to MIT, and I'm not somebody who thinks it was a wonderful place for me in the end. Okay. It's not that I think everybody in the world has to go there, but my family didn't have very much money for college, and we didn't have any money for college. And my dad was military, and I ended up getting a scholarship to go to college through the military, and then I would owe them 4 years as a military officer. And having grown up, you know, I don't think that everyone needs to be in the military. I think everyone needs to serve their community in some way, give to their community in some way. But the fact that with that scholarship, I could literally go to almost any school. And then we come back to schools that I applied to. And I was lucky enough to be a person who, on paper, I mean, so everybody's good at different things. I am actually good at those standardized tests. It doesn't mean that I think they mean something. I actually think that they're actually reasonably terrible. I am the mom of a kid who really, they do not speak to my kid. But you know, it's one way to get a snapshot, but there are so many other snapshots. And so anyway, it was easy for me to apply to schools and even to get that military scholarship. Other scholarships, no, I really didn't get. But anyways, so I applied, and I only applied to MIT because I was in this like advanced physics class with these 5 guys. And you know, the teacher would go, okay, so we're going to start into physics, and I like chemistry. Okay. Chemistry speaks to me. Physics, I'm like, okay. And so, you know, he's Mr. Van Meter, bless his heart. He would say, okay, so we're going to skip like the first 3 chapters and start with chapter 4, right? And I'm like, well, Mr. Van Meter, you know, so, and these guys would be like, they were all going to apply to MIT. not, and it was so clear, it never occurred to them that I would apply. It made me mad. And so I applied. And I worked at the local library. That was my after school job. And my mom called me at work. She goes, "Hey, you got into MIT." I'm like, "Mom, you opened my mail. You call me at work. I get in trouble." You know? And I go, "And I am not going to go to some nerd school." And she insisted that I go and see it. Put me on the train, went up to Boston, got off the train, got on the subway, met a kid. I mean, I arranged to meet a kid from my high school that I really didn't know, showed me around, and showed me that there were people just like me at that school. So I tell you that big, long story because I think it's important to realize that somebody who ends up with this jacket didn't always know what was going to happen. And, you know, realize that, you know, we don't do these things alone. We have villages. I have a big village. I need a village. I need a village that reassures me, that reminds me that I can do these things. And so that's my long answer to your question, Bethesda.
No, that was perfect. I love that. And that goes a little bit into our next question. Pamela, I'm going to bring you on to ask your next question if you're able to. Pamela, if you're able to unmute.
Hello, Doctor. Hello.
That's okay. Hi, Pamela.
Hi. So my question was, what is your best advice for an aspiring astronaut in his or her mid-20s? I happen to have two nephews. One is a doctor and one is an engineer, and they both applied to NASA this year, and they're kind of always having that in conversation. So I was like, hey, I have this thing that I can join in. What would you like me to ask? And that was where that came from. I would love to get your advice for them.
Well, thanks. Well, first of all, for astronaut, the thing that is just the most important to understand is that nobody, not a single person becomes an astronaut.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is something else first. And so in a way, it's the same advice I give to everybody in their 20s, including my 20-year-old, you know, which is that it's early to decide you know exactly who you are and that you know exactly what you are good at. I mean, I'm still discovering things like that I thought I would never be good at, that I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not bad at that. And I'm still actually working on stuff that I've known that I really am not good at. And I constantly just have to work at being good at. And so I think that you have a lot to learn about what your interests are. And so just to stay curious and realize that you, as the younger generation, it is your job to tug on the sleeves of anyone that it occurs to you that you would like to find out about. And it is their job, whether they like it or not, embrace it or not, but they probably will, to, you know, just tell you what their world is like and how they feel about it. Because in doing that, you get to find out about different worlds. And, you know, and especially like a wild job like astronaut. I mean, I didn't tell many people like, hi, I think I'd like to be an astronaut. Because they're like, hey, what about a real job? I mean, you know, do you want to be a fireman too? Right? But it is a real job, but it does come from doing the best you can do and being passionate about something you want to learn about. And as astronauts, we're really lifelong learners. I mean, I didn't know how to repair things. I grew up in a family where if you wanted something fixed, you picked up the phone. Usually a guy came to your house, fixed things. And even though my dad was a pretty mechanical guy, none of us did that. And I mean, I learned how to fix things at the age of 48. You know, I learned how to use tools. It turns out it's not that hard. They have directions if you read them, and then you can fix things. And there is always YouTube. My kid actually did teach me that. And so now, like, you know, I look first on YouTube.
Thank you. I think for the one, he's actually a medical doctor, and he has also been like a professional ice skater, lived out of his home like since the age of, I think, 14. He didn't live home. So I think that he understands that he is tugging at those sleeves right now.
That's
the
awesome.
Other nephew, he is an engineer, and he's been doing that, and this is just, he says it very matter of fact, but this is what he's going to be. So I think that's where that came from. I know I am like you. I am a lifelong learner. I guide children. I've been a fashion editor. Now I'm back in school learning education so that I can do a different career. And so, yeah, I understand everything you said. I think for them, I think it's just like, I don't know. I think they were searching for like, what is the secret to possibly opening this door?
Well, in a more practical step, I will say that every couple of years, NASA says, who would like to be an astronaut? And the requirements are, I believe, a master's degree in something STEM related, right? And a couple years experience, which a lot of people, and sounds like your sons probably already have that. And what I urge people, this is I think the important thing to hear for everybody in our audience, is there's a tendency when you're going to apply for something that means a lot to you to think that you should get this, and maybe other people who are, administrators and professors would disagree, and they're welcome to. But my opinion is that you shouldn't wait until you feel like you're perfectly qualified. You should wait until you are qualified. But the minute you are like even remotely qualified, you put yourself down on that application. The very act of doing that makes you think about what you might be missing or what you might wish you could say something a little more substantive about. But it also, like you mentioned that your son is an ice skater. My immediate image is this is somebody who's had to actually dig really deep and try so hard and practice. And so don't underestimate the different skills in your life, and don't hesitate to put them down on an application, because in an application, people want to understand who you are. And if you don't tell them, they can't know. If you needed to take care of your family and you weren't working after school, hello, this would be indoor leadership, but and if you worked in someone wrote down on their astronaut application that they were like leadership in a summer camp for, 200 kids. And I was like, wow, okay, they know rules, regulations, they know parents, they know kids, they know safety. This is somebody I want to be on that space station with. So just do not underestimate the value of your life experiences, and please, please, please express them. Because if you don't tell people in a language they can understand who you are, and, so I guess I'm ready for another question.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So with that, actually from our career services department, Maria had asked about if there was any specific degrees or fields of study. And I know that you're kind of saying a lot of people come into it with different experience. I don't know if you have anything to add about in terms of actual academic studies.
For the actual astronaut job, you definitely need to be in a STEM related field. And, right now, we're going, more and more people are going to space, right? And by the time, I know it seems like ancient, like, my age probably seems like ancient to you, but by the time, you have more time, you might not, it's not like the only people that are going to get to go to space are people who major in STEM. But let's talk about what it makes to make a space mission. And that would be people doing ground control, people in mission control, right? People who are teaching and training, so looking for education experience. And I want to be with an engineer who knows how to teach me, if their job is to teach me, right? So teaching, really important. And we astronauts have learned actually quite a bit from our educator astronauts about how to be taught and how to teach. But also, think about the stories I told you about Perseverance. Think about when NASA is telling stories and trying to explain even to Congress, hey, this is what we're trying to do. Well, they are literally drawing pictures. They are explaining, they are using words and videos and images and analogies. So these are communicators, right? Without the people who are communicating, without the people who are managing, there's so many layers to being involved. And every one of these things that I just mentioned is pivotal to me climbing, putting my spacesuit on, climbing into a rocket and living safely on the space station and coming home. And so there's lots of different jobs to do in the space department. And I don't mean to keep bringing up my kid, but my kid does not particularly want to be an astronaut. He loves journalism. He's interested in telling stories that mean something to him. And, he loves that through photography, maybe through words. He knows he's got a lot to learn. And he's like, well, Mom, why would I apply to NASA? I go, well, they do. They have to tell stories. And then he goes, Mom, the history department wrote me back. And I'm like, cool. He's like, what would I do in the history department? I'm like, everything. So, you know, with these internships, we're coming back to internships or getting a feel for things, you know, be curious. I mean, I said, well, why don't you write and ask them what you would do? I mean, don't ask your mom, you know, go find out and realize, you know, be open-minded.
And with that, actually a great segue, Brian Rebus, who is one of our student employees, actually did an internship with NASA. So I asked Brian to take a moment, unmute, and share a little bit of that. That's as far as I can go in terms of knowing what happened. So Brian, you can take it from there.
Hey, Brian.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Coleman, for your very inspiring talk. So my involvement with NASA began with the NCAS program. So it's a NASA program for community college students specifically, and I think that was what really opened doors to me to get involved at NASA and just know all the amazing things that NASA does. Before this program, I was quite unfamiliar with NASA. Like I only knew, like most people, I only knew the logo and the name, and I knew they did space stuff. But after that, after this program, I got to meet engineers. We held workshops. I participated in robotic team projects.
Cool.
And
where were you, Brian? Where were you?
So the program had two phases. The first phase was online, and then depending on how you performed in the online part of the program, you were eligible to go to an on-site experience. So I went to the Wallops Flight Facility in Virginia.
Oh, cool.
And
they are launching stuff from there, aren't they?
Yes, that's where all the supply missions are held at, which you mentioned in your presentation.
Yes, that's where the Katherine Johnson launched from.
Yes, to the space station. And then this opportunity led me to apply to an internship, which I also participated in at the Kennedy Space Center. So from Wallops, I went to Kennedy, and then this summer, I'm going back to Wallops as an intern to assist in the NCAS program, which I first participated in. So I'll be supporting the new students that will be participating as an alumni of the program. So I wanted to encourage everyone in this who's here present to apply to the program. I'll be posting the link to the program in the chat, and I highly encourage people to apply because as Dr. Coleman said, NASA is pretty busy with the moon and the Mars missions, and there's a lot of opportunities for students.
Wow, Brian, I'm so glad you told. First of all, I did not know about that program. I mean, and so NASA's a big place, and you know, but as a person who is on the board of the local community college, I'm embarrassed not to know that there's a program like that. And I am a very big fan of community college, of what you can learn there, who you can be there, who you can meet there. And I love being a part of ours. I mean, it's really like a big part of our community. I'm so glad you got to go to those places. And isn't the Kennedy Space Center, I mean, this is, I don't know what people think of, they think of the rocket, but it's like, it's a huge, like Everglades, giant place. And then, I mean, did you get to like, you know, be driving around and like stuff like that there? Sometimes that's tricky. They're kind of picky about how that happens.
So I went to Kennedy as a visitor. That was before the internship, and that was during my participation in the NCAS program.
Part of NCAS, okay.
When I was an intern, that was when COVID happened. So I worked virtually with the safety and mission assurance team. So I was helping out on the safety part of space missions and the rocket launches.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's everything to somebody who's going to sit on top of that rocket.
Yes,
I mean,
and
yeah,
and safety is a huge component of NASA missions. Safety is like everywhere. It's very critical. You hear safety probably about 20 times a day.
Well, and actually at the Kennedy Space Center, I mean, we train at Johnson, and of course we think about safety there too, but at Kennedy is where they really have the hardware. I mean, they have the rockets. It's where people leave from. And it's life or death for the people who work there and for the people that launch there. And so you've really started at like the biggest, baddest place. And it's like that at Wallops too, because they're launching. So these places where these real things happen. I'm so glad you got to do those things. And I would love to see that link in the chat as well. So thank you for sharing.
I'll definitely be posting that in the chat for those who'd like to get to know more about it.
Thank you so much, Brian. Brian did that as a student at Hudson, and we actually have had a few students that have gone to that program. So I know we'll start that kind of momentum of continuing that involvement. So thank you so much for sharing, Brian. So Brian talked a little bit about COVID. A question we had in the chat was about kind of the isolation of being in space and if that prepared you for the quarantine of 2020 or not. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Well, I think it did. You know, I think we've all had to reimagine what it's like to be connected. You know, what does connected mean, and what does not being connected mean? And I'll say two things. One is, I mean, I lived on the space station. I'm also I had a commuting marriage, so I lived in Houston, and my husband lives in Massachusetts, and we commuted for 24 years. And so we didn't always get to see each other. We'd go back and forth, not on NASA planes. No. I'd run regular planes, regular plane tickets. And then we had a kid, and my kid was 10. Our kid was 10 when we went to the space station. And, you know, we had decided as a family that this was who Jamie's mom was, and that I would do this mission. But it still is hard to stay, you know, you really just want to be together so much. And it sounds kind of, you know, hokey or contrived or whatever, but the more ways that you can find to spend time virtually with people, and sometimes you make it like a fewer people. When I do my whole family, like we all kind of who talks, who what, but sometimes when we make it a little smaller group, you know, it's just a little bit more like really getting to talk. But my son and I, he was 10 and he doesn't need me to read to him, but I used to read to him because it kind of gave us a way to be together. And sometimes, you know, we would even just each put on, you know, it was Skype back then. And my husband would have the computer on Skype, like just all day Saturday. And I would have it in my house. And we'd both be just doing our stuff. And so be creative. But the last thing I'll say about this is that, and when we're up on the space station, we actually do get to talk to our families, certainly every day. We had an internet protocol phone. So it's as private as any cell phone call is, which are not exactly private, but I never worry about that. But then, so I could call home. They couldn't call me, kind of frustrating for them. But we talked literally every day, but 3 out of 159. And we'd have video conferences about once a week. And I could, you know, take the computer and sort of fly them around the space station. It was, and they could see the window and look outside. And that was really cool. But realize that there's still going to be stuff that's pretty virtual for a while. And in a way, it's an opportunity, because, you know, we have limited sort of ways to be in touch and be able to like sort of figure out who each other is. I mean, I can look in Veronica's background, or maybe some ways that she talks, or to find little things. But when we're in person, there's a lot more kind of clues about, oh, maybe Veronica and I connect that way. There's not as many clues. And so if you're having to do stuff virtual, just realize you just gonna have to work. It's just a fact of life. You're gonna have to work harder to get to know the other people on your team, to connect with them. It's, you know, it doesn't feel fair to have to try to maybe show them who you are. Like maybe, you know, you look on the Zoom, and I mean, I myself have made some assumptions when I was getting a lab partner at MIT. I was in a really important chemistry class, and I looked out, and there was this other woman, and she was like tall, blonde, looked like Miss California. And I just thought, she doesn't really look all that smart to me. And I didn't pick her. And she looked at me and she's like, nobody that cute could be like good at chemistry. So we did not pick each other. It only took a few weeks before we actually did become best friends and work together all the time and still know each other and our friends. She is like a genius Grant MacArthur person, chemistry professor, amazing. And I got a pretty good job. So were we wrong?
I mean, that's that unconscious bias that a lot of us, you know, hopefully now are becoming a more aware of. So I am happy that you shared that story and that you proved each other wrong.
And I think especially on Zoom, when you look out, Veronica, that it's easy to kind of go, that person, they never talk, or that person, they're always silent, or why don't they move their camera, or, you know, blah, 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 blah. If you look the same way, and can I show really quick my little pictures about this? If you look at people and stuff the same way, I started talking about this at the very beginning, then you will always see the same thing. And I'll kind of flip real quick here. But we learned to look at like upside down and right side up because we live up in space, but I think you can apply it to people. And here you're looking at the East Coast. And I know I cut off New Jersey there, sorry. But there's Massachusetts. As a friend of mine likes to say, he goes, oh, it looks just like the map, because it does. But I want to get to these pictures of looking at things like upside down, right side up. I mean, when we're looking out the window, are we upside down or right side up? It's kind of hard to know. And at each other. So look at this picture. There's 6 people in this picture, but it's really just easy to see the 2 guys on the bottom. You see my big hair, that must be me, only girl, big hair. But it's a lot easier to see me this way because we're used to looking at people right side up in one direction. And I'll show you another one. Here's Naoko and Dottie, 2 astronauts from Japan and the US. Dottie's a teacher, but we barely see up top Stephanie and Tracy, but here they are. I mean, so, you know, I'm kind of being silly going, well, maybe move your head. But when you're on Zoom, instead of, you're not going to physically move your head, but just don't look at people the same way. Think about them in a different way. Think about who they are. Ask yourself more questions about them. Ask them those questions. And I think that you will realize that we all just have so many different dimensions. And it does take effort. And sometimes, some days you won't feel like it, but do it as much as you can. And you will discover there are people out there that are your village. They'll be your friends. Even if they're not your friends, they're people that you all need each other.
No, there were questions about that too. So you wrapped a bunch of questions all up into one, which is perfect. What would you say was your favorite moment of being in space? I know it's probably hard to pick just one. And also when you talked about the big hair, my first thought was, oh my gosh, I got lots of hair. I don't even want to know what that looks like up there.
Oh, you look wonderful up there, Veronica. And even down here, you know, my mom, every time I'm kind of getting ready for Zoom, I'll be like, oh, my mom would say, put my hair up. You know, she always liked to put my hair really short, right? Like I always have to kind of throw it behind my ears and keep it out of my face. And up there, it really kind of like goes with you, like where you go. Because think about how much force that is. I mean, if you whip, then it's going to do that. But in general, it's like, it's never in your way. My hair's in my way a lot down here, but it's never in your way. It's in other people's way. And like, if everybody's trying to look out the window, I do actually put my hair up, you know?
That's so interesting. So yes, I guess a favorite moment to wrap it up.
So I will wrap it up, but I will just first tell you real quick that I actually did cut my hair short. You can see short-haired pictures of me because I figured when I was done, I would have a grown-up picture. But then I wanted to grow my hair long for the space station. So I got a picture taken from my mom with short hair, and then I grew my hair long, you know, just to have long hair in the space station, just so that literally every time you saw a picture of me, I was in the picture, it would just in this subliminal way say, women belong in space. Women belong in, because we do. And we bring so many skills and everybody belongs in space. And my favorite moment probably happened actually literally every morning. I wake up in my cabin. Often I slept curled up in like a little ball. And because I had a sleeping bag, I would zip it over my knees. So I was kind of curled up in a little ball and it could be hooked to the wall, but I like to kind of float around, and I would wake up sometimes like under my computer desk. And so I would wake up and I'd see the bottom of my computer desk or wherever. I was like, oh, wow, I'm still in space. And that was, I mean, I just loved it. I would open the cabin door and then I would fly down the lab, kind of hook a right, go brush my teeth, everything else. I mean, it took me about 3 minutes to get to work.
The best, that's kind of like our commute now.
Oh, you know, it's true. It's true. Although we always wear pants on the space station. Okay.
That is important.
And I am wearing pants. I am wearing pants right now. Okay.
Yes. Hopefully we all are. Yes, I am as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Coleman, Katie, for your time. And this was an amazing opportunity for our students to hear firsthand your experience. And I want to take a moment to thank you again. If you're able to put if you have a way that our students can contact you or anybody who may want to connect with you, maybe LinkedIn, if you're able to put that in the chat, that would be fantastic. And I know that you have a podcast coming out soon.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yes. So I have the email addresses of everybody who signed up. So we'll send them a direct information about that. But you do have a podcast coming up also. So anybody who wants to continue that listening to Katie can do so.
Okay, yeah, we are. Well, actually, I think the best way to find me is really social media. That's pretty much the way I do things. And my tag is pretty easy. And actually, you'll find a lot of the astronauts this way. I am at @astro_. And I'm Katie, spelled weird, blame my mom, Cady, right? But you will find Victor, you will find Jeanette, you will find, you will find all sorts of people and, and astronauts. And actually there's a tag called @NASA_astronauts, where you will then see a lot of different postings and about different sorts of people. But our podcast is about it's called Mission Interplanetary, kind of like Mission Impossible, but Mission Interplanetary. And it's about, we're going places out in the universe because it all belongs to all of us, and we will be going, and we'll take everything of who we are with us. So we're encouraging people to talk about what are the really big questions in trying to do things like that. And we talk in just plain old English to different people. I mean, if it's not your field, you're not going to understand it. And that's the way I feel. And so whenever they use some word I don't know, I'm like, hey, could you tell me what that means? So, and I have fun with my co-host. So I think it's pretty fun, but it's called Mission Interplanetary, and it's on all the platforms. And that's kind of new for me. It just launched yesterday, and I think 4,000 people watched it.
Whoa, that's great. Congratulations. So yes, everybody who's here will get an email, and we'll give you some more information on that. But if you look it up now, I'm sure you'll find it. But Katie, thank you so much for your time. I am going to pass over to our Associate Dean of our STEM Division, Dr. Burl Yearwood, to close us out. Katie, have a wonderful day, and thank you all so much for coming today.
Well, thanks to everybody coming. I know it takes some effort, and realize, going to see a speaker when I was in school, it changed my life. You never know who's going to show up, who's going to remind you or point out to you who you are, because whoever you are, that's important. And then you'll be showing up for other people too. Thanks.
Well, I would like to say thank you so much, Katie. That was such a interesting, informative, engaging, and fun presentation, also with such practical advice. So I would definitely like to express my thanks, not only on behalf of the STEM division, but the whole college community for such a great presentation. I would say especially to the students, I still consider myself a student of life. Mm-hmm. So I would say, to echo Katie, we all need a village, a community, and we have that here at Hudson. So, especially for the students, this is why I would like to especially thank our student presenters earlier on, because they provided you with information about those support services, ways of getting engaged and involved at Hudson. You never know where it's going to lead. And so I would like to, begin with thanking Pedro for talking about the STEM Club and all the activities that they do. Daphne for talking about STEM and the fact that there is an opportunity for you to receive funding, to get money for study in STEM. Hector for talking about the B2B program. There's a lot of internships and research opportunities out there, and it is so important for students to take advantage of these. As a student, I never knew that, internships and research opportunities are out there. And again, the path they lead you down to is so diverse. They tell you so much about yourselves. So I highly encourage the students listening to reach out. Abu talked about Phi Theta Kappa, PTK, our honor society, and that again is another wonderful student organization that helps and provides those wraparound services. I would also like to thank Dr. Reber for his very informative and his opening statements. And of course, before we end, I have to thank Veronica. She has done an amazing job organizing this, getting this all together. I cannot go without thanking Dr. Clive Lee, who is the faculty mentor for the STEM Club. He does an amazing job getting students involved. And so I will leave with saying, for all of you, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to myself. Feel free to reach out to Veronica or Dr. Lee. We're more than happy to help. Katie, again, thank you so much. Congratulations on the podcast. I will be listening. And it was really fun to have you, and thank you for joining our community. We now consider you part of the Hudson community, so thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and I will send your best to the Greenfield Community College, because then we'll be like joined together. And anybody who wants to, give me comments and reviews on the podcast, if it's not working for you, that would be something I would love to know. So, listen a little bit if you like it. Most people are just pretty fun explainers. And I don't know, we have half women, half men. So it's just kind of a cool thing. But it's been really wonderful to be here today. I believe so much in community college. It's where real people start. It's where real people finish. And the resources are so underestimated. So I was really excited to come and hear about some of yours that I will take back to Greenfield.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe. And remember, Hudson is home, and we have a new family member in Katie. So take care, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks a lot.